Hey, it's Ads and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about painting the hair. I've been getting a lot of questions on how I paint, so I'm gonna break down my method with some tips and tricks on how to start and how you can improve yourself. So let's get started. I like to think of the hair as one big shape among many other shapes in my painting. I think an important skill a painter can acquire is the ability to simplify complex forms and to view things in shapes and lines. When we see complex forms and references, we can get caught up and zoomed in with those small details and get tempted to paint everything in one go, which sometimes results in us being left overwhelmed and lost. So simplifying what we're seeing is the first step into planning our painting, which will help us focus on getting the proportions correctly as well. This is not just seeing the outer shape of a form, but also seeing those light and shadow shapes. And when we incorporate those shapes in our painting, it will further create an interesting look. This is a skill that can be absolutely trained, and what helped me a lot was an accuracy guide by the artist Dorian Eaton. I have spoken about this in my channel, but I do encourage you to check out his video and his guide as well. He speaks about viewing things in lines, angles, and shapes, which help accurately capturing the proportions. Another thing that falls into planning your piece is values and grouping them. Not everything is in one or two values. Between your darkest and your lightest value lays a wide range of different ones. So try simplifying it by grouping areas together, like having one values for the shadow, one for the midtones, and one for the highlight, and slowly build up your range for more definition. And that goes pretty much with everything in painting. It's not just about hair. Painting is a buildable process. We lay out a foundation and slowly build up details until we reach a result to our liking. This is not just about building the structure, but also colors, brushworks, and etc. Now that we have our simplified sketch ready, we can start choosing colors. I know colors can be daunting, so let's not stress it at first and start simply by focusing on picking two colors, a shadow color and a mid-tone color. It is okay if it's not accurate yet. Like I said, we can always build up things later. Based on the reference, we are painting a pretty dark brown hair, so my values for those two colors lays pretty dark on the value scale. A rule of thumb is to refrain from using black as your darkest, even if it looks like it, like these areas here. The reason for this, and I have mentioned it before, is by choosing black, we eliminate any chances of adding any more definition because it lays at the end of the value scale. So I save up the black for when I see the need to define my shadow area more. Choose something dark in value but not black. It can be from the browns, reds, or even blues. The fun thing about colors, which is also the best advice I can give, is you can always experiment, and you should experiment. If one color doesn't hit right, choose a different one, either from the same family or completely opposite one. Try desaturated or at its brightest, and so on. This way of experimenting will unlock color exposure in a way you didn't know it's possible. Color theory by itself can be limiting, so try experimenting and observing things around you as well. Just make sure that you've got your values right. Now, the way that I place those two colors is by blocking them with big strokes, keeping the texture visible. I love to show the brush texture from the early stages, and this is just a personal thing of mine. You can totally fill it out completely. I use a smudge brush along the way that has a bit of a pull to it. I'm not blending two colors together, I'm creating a smooth overlapping strands as well as creating texture at the same time. And I think this is the perfect stage to talk a little bit about the brushes. I mainly use these two from Greg Rutkowski pack. It's an amazing free brushes. Both are textured and falls into the heavy painting brushes. And you can create multiple textures depending on your hand pressure and movement. I just tweak them a bit to enhance the textures even more, and that same tweak I also tried it recently for the smudge brush, and it gave me a really good effect, as you will see soon. The smudge one is from an amazing artist here. It is a mixture brush, so it doesn't lay color on a blank canvas, and it just reacts when there's color. Now, one might argue, does brushes really matter when it comes to painting the hair or painting in general? Well, To some sort, yes. Depends very much on what you want to achieve in your art. I really love textures, so I use heavily textured brushes that can help me show a rough look. There are some things that you cannot achieve with just a round brush. And brushworks in general are a thing that comes a little bit later in your art path. You need some fundamentals and skill first to apply and experiment brushwork on top. And that will help you a lot because then you know the form and you know how to direct your brush towards it. That's why beginners are often told to not focus and stress on brushes much at first. But it's not a necessity, of course. In the end, it really depends on your style and your preferences. But I do encourage you to try some rough texture brushes if you haven't and experiment with them because they're really fun. And try everything in your art journey. I used to not like these and found them daunting and hard to work with, but now I'm kind of obsessed. Aside from these brushes, there are also ones designed to make painting easier, like different hair brushes that create multiple strands of hair in one stroke. That can be a stylistic choice. You don't need to paint every individual strand of hair. As long as it reads as hair is fine, even if it's just a complete blunt shape. And I will show you a tip at the end of the video on how to make a simple shape more interesting by using a simple trick. Back to our pigtails, I'm gonna start adding a lighter color as a highlight. And I prefer having matte highlight, which is like a 2-value lighter desaturated color, so it does not show extremely shiny or glossy. This is just my opinion, but I think it helps translate the art more realistically, especially in a normal setting where there isn't a very strong lighting, or if it's just softly distributed everywhere. So the shine in the hair shows up kind of soft. I do a back and forth motion while having the brush at a small size to mimic hair strands. If it's too harsh, I will use my smudge brush to soften that up. And while I'm painting, I am noticing these little pockets of shadow where some hair pieces overlaps or are gathered together, which create that deep shadow gap. Once I'm happy with all of that, I then look deeply at my reference and I ask myself, what do I see? We paint what we see, so if we train our eyes to recognize and see things, we will be able to paint them and further manipulate them. One of those things are hidden colors. Objects or forms get affected with the surrounding environment, like light, ambient or reflected light, even other objects nearby that have a strong pigment, and by thickness also. Thin piece of hair will show a lighter color than a thick gathered strand because light was able to pass through more. Those effects can sometimes show themselves ever so slightly and can be hard to pick up, so take a moment to recognize what you're seeing. Once you do, you can even push out what you're seeing more by increasing the intensity or even manipulate the colors. That's what makes hair more interesting and appealing, those faint of colors popping here and there. And as different individuals, we do not always see the same thing. We visualize things differently. Each one can and will see different colors. Remember that blue and white dress? It is something like that. So there's really no right or wrong about that. It is completely subjective, and I'm gonna have a video on that part of coloring soon, so stay tuned. So yeah, get yourself comfortable with that. As a beginner, you won't see things right away, but it will definitely come with practice. For example, you may look at this reference and all you can see is that one dark color because it's the prominent one, but here at the top you can see a faintly burnt orange color. And on this side of the hair here, I can see a shade of blue. It is so subtle, but I can push it more while painting. Those are not the exact value though, it is just relative to what I'm seeing. If I were to add it just like that, it will be a complete disaster. So the way to add those colors is by doing it at a very low opacity. Even if the color was at its brightest, just pay attention to not disrupt the values much. Like I said, they are faintly showing, they are not there to compete with the main color. Then you can build it up until you're happy with it. Let's go to our reference and see what colors we can catch. I can see a faint green hue, like this type of green here, and a reddish or an orange hue at the top here in the shadow. and some blue here. I'm gonna add them, like I said, at a very low opacity and blend them more with my smudge brush. I'm keeping in mind the point of tension and how it affects hair strands. It is important to achieve a consistent pull towards either the tension point or the loose, relaxed points. I pretty much continue the process of adding colors, blending, and fixing up the shape. Also, don't forget the flyaways. They are like the cherry on top for the hair. I really enjoy painting dark hair. I just love that deep shadow color that I can achieve with it, and it is easier to paint than blonde hair in my opinion. Just because when painting blonde, we are dealing with a very light value from the start, and any wrong value can cause it to have a muddy look. So you have to be extra careful while choosing colors and values. They need to be more subtle to maintain that blonde look. But I did a quick light hair painting so we can cover more value ranges for hair in this video, and I painted this cute space buns. It is well lit, so we almost don't have a distinctive shadow area, and I focused more on enhancing those pockets. I started with a mid-tone for all of the hair, and my shadow had to be subtle. It is the same process except for with dark hair, values were here, but with the blonde, it's right here. And for those hidden colors, you can see an evident pink coming specifically from the ribbons. And I tried popping that blue more, which was tricky because you can see it started competing with the blonde and made it look like dyed pieces of hair, which is not bad at all, but I was focusing on making it very subtle, as you can see in the speed paint. Remember I said I have a bonus tip for you guys, a simple trick that can make it look like you've spent hours painting and really transforms your art to the next level. Let's do it on the cute space buns. I already have texture images like these. I simply search rough black and white texture or stone textures, anything basically that has strong shapes to it. I clip mask it on the top of the art layer. If you have the face and the ribbons on a different layer, it will make this much easier, but I don't, so I'm gonna have to manually erase those from the texture layer. Then I play with the different layer modes until I find something I like. It is different every time, depending on the color of the art itself and also the color of the texture. For this one, I settle on overlay, and I lower the opacity a bit, some blending here and there, and we have something that looks like this. So full of shapes and just makes the art more beautiful. You can duplicate it and try a different mode or add a different type of texture as well. Try to pick something that has a random shapes to it, as it will look more natural. With this, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed my hair painting process and found it helpful. If you do, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment or share maybe. It would just help my channel a lot. And if you happen to follow this video, tag me your paintings, whether on Twitter or Instagram. I would really love to see them. You can find my accounts in the description. And I will see you in another video. Happy painting!